Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, and I am so excited for you to meet Carly Pepin. She is an international speaker and consultant with a specialized focus on human behavior. And so the message that she gives is that regardless of your background, occupation, or origin, every individual encounters personal and professional challenges stemming from their own perceived flaws. And she emphasizes that the key to living a fulfilling life really lies in how you utilize and transform the stories that you tell yourself. And so, having devoted her life to mastering those intricacies of human behavior, she empowers you to do the same. And so she will guide you through looking beyond the surface, delving into the core essence of who you are. And by uncovering and addressing those deeper issues that kind of hinder your personal growth, she'll help you design your life with purpose rather than succumbing to one dictated by duty. So thank you so much, Carly, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I love the way you present a lot of these things, but I'd love to hear first kind of your background. What brought you here? How did you get into this field?
Yeah, so I actually got into this field just having my own life challenges. I was living in Los Angeles and I had a great career, great job, and I was doing really well. I had a house, had the cool car, all that fun stuff, but I felt really unfulfilled from the inside. So I wound up moving to Australia thinking that would solve my problems. Got there and started to understand that it all comes from the inside. I found by chance an individual's flyer that at the time I had an eating disorder and they had listed all the things that I was going through. And they said at the end, like they got to the other side, which I was like, what? So like I've been doing this stuff forever and trying to tackle it, but this is the first person that says they're not dealing with it anymore.
Mhm.
And so I really wanted to give it a try. And that's when I kind of got into the personal development, human behavior aspect of growing ourselves and understanding why we have the behaviors we have and how to overcome them instead of just, kind of waking up and beating myself up every day in food journals. Like, just not, how do I not think about it, basically? And her method started to work so well that after that, I decided to study that and started to pursue the teachers that she had studied with, as well as finding other individuals who had expertise in human behavior, how to adjust our own behaviors, how to help us to grow, to evolve, to clear guilt, shames, all these different components so that we can understand not just why we do what we do, but if it's necessary to transform it and things are getting in our way, how do we do that as well? And not just like by beating ourselves down, because
Right.
sometimes we set goals and stuff and it's like every day we're still not doing those. It's like, okay, well, if we're not doing those, then why are we not doing those? And is it necessary to shift it or maybe drop it and realize perhaps that you weren't on the accurate path for you in the first place? So it's really about understanding who people are, who we are uniquely, and then designing our life around that so that we're not kind of getting stuck in all these hurdles on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, and I love that you share, I think so many times we try and run from our problems, people try and drown their problems, and they will follow you wherever you go. There's a line in one of the U2 songs, I tried to drown my sorrows and my sorrows learned to swim. Like it will keep coming up unless you focus on, like you said, that why. And kind of getting out of our own way of what we think we're supposed to do and that duty you mentioned versus really being aligned with who are you, what is your purpose, and how do you achieve that. And I don't know if it's, where do you feel like it comes from when you see people and you're working with people on some of these expectations and constructs that they've kind of put themselves in?
Yeah, those expectations are not actually the things that we want. So we put unrealistic expectations not only on ourselves, but on other people's as well. And what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to live out of our own priorities, out of our own purpose. So you might wake up in the morning and say, maybe I should exercise, I should eat healthy, I should build a business, I should be a better mom or dad, right? But all those shoulds are actually not according to you, they're according to someone else. If it's a fitness component, you've probably woken up and said, I should exercise or do this because you looked at someone on the outside world whose priority and purpose is fitness, that they want to
Mhm.
invest 4 to 6 hours a day in making that happen. And you
Right.
don't have the time because you have a different purpose. So you should yourself into thinking that's the life that you should live as opposed to doing what you would really love to do, which maybe is work, which maybe is spending time with your family, you know? And so it's really paying attention to the language that you're using. If you say, I should, need to, have to, supposed to, must, got to, ought to, right? That's
Hmm.
indicative that you are saying that someone else's priorities are more important than you. And you're putting an unrealistic expectation on yourself to do something that's outside of what's actually important to you. When you say, I would love to, choose to, want to, desire to, those are things that I know that are aligned with who you really are and what you would really love to
Hmm.
do. And the cool thing about that is, and I love paying attention to this too, because you can ask yourself the question, like when I say I should do this, I'm like, oh, there's a should. And I go, according to who? Right? And then
Hmm.
that person pops in my head. And as soon as they pop in my head, I'm like, ah, I've put them on a pedestal. I think like in that
Wow.
moment, I put them on a pedestal. I'm comparing myself to them. And I sort of sit back and I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't think that I had to do this or should do this, I was like, what would I really love to do instead? You know, and connecting with that part of you and moving forward because you won't procrastinate on your loves, the things that you want to and love to do. You'll definitely procrastinate on those shoulds.
Absolutely. We always make the time for the things we really want to do. So when people say they don't have the time, it's more about whether they're afraid to find out maybe what is underneath all of that, what that why is. And if it's not aligned, I'm sure you see people who kind of are so conflicted to what they've always known and believed versus that voice that they keep hearing inside themselves as well.
Absolutely, because sometimes it's so ingrained in us, you know, from childhood up, that we're supposed to do things a certain way and supposed to live life a certain way, and things have to go this way. It takes us a long time to break from those chains if we don't have those quality questions that we can ask ourselves to get us to the other side. And it's not unrealistic. And depending on the culture that you're brought up in, right? So I'm
Mhm.
brought up in Los Angeles, California. So I have shoulds that are different from, you know, my husband who grew up in Vancouver, Canada, right? And
Mhm.
then we have friends who grew up in Germany. We have friends who grew up in Mexico, and all of them have different shoulds because each society has a different should and supposed to that they put on us. So it's all that noise that we get from growing up that if we don't actually ask those questions to be like, oh, a should according to who? How do I transform this? How do I get to the other side? Let me stop comparing myself. Then we'll get stuck in trying to live this life that's not really inspiring to us. And that's when I say a life of
Mhm.
duty feels like something that you wake up and you have to do, and it's a heaviness, right? It does feel like duty, as opposed to something that you can design by yourself and something that's inspiring to you, something that you love to do.
Right. Now, just to kind of play devil's advocate, have you ever met with somebody or talked to somebody where it's kind of what they're choosing maybe are not in their best interest or could be self-sabotaging or something, that's kind of self-destructive? Has that ever come up?
Yeah, and when you say self-destructive, like, do you mean self-destructive actual behaviors or self-destructive just they're on the wrong path?
Both.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So sometimes I will talk to people and well, I mean, it happens all the time. Basically, every person I talk to, they're going to tell me what they think they should do, what they think they have to do, what they think they're supposed to do, right? And I'll sit down and I'll just go with them step by step, one by one, to see who they're comparing themselves to, where they're subordinating to. And we just keep clearing subordinations until at the end of it, what they love to do would come out, right?
Mhm.
So I think what I love about being a coach and consultant in this kind of dynamic is if you come to me, you're not going to get a list of things to do. It's not
Right.
happening. Some people it makes crazy and they don't want to work with me. Other people they really want it. And I'm like, basically, I'm going to find out who you're comparing yourself to, get you to that other side, shift those perceptions so that you can move on and move forward. When we think about self-destructive behaviors, maybe something like an addiction, something like that, that's quite challenging and that's impacting your day to day. We only have addictions because in some way, shape, or form, they're serving us.
Mhm.
And they're serving us and giving us what we want and what is necessary. So until you see how it actually serves you, which also will clear judgment and help you to see and love and appreciate yourself for this strategy, you can't actually change the strategy because you want to first find out what it's giving you, and then you can go in and find out alternative solutions and link that to your priorities instead. Because when I talk about, I used to have an eating disorder, right? I used to eat like a lot of food, like a
Mhm.
lot of food. So I was definitely like the binger, right? And so I would go and I would see how each moment it served me to have that food. And a lot of it was emotional, like control and
Mhm.
shifting my emotions. And I realized how specific I was. It's actually quite amazing how magnificent we are as human beings. I would go for certain types of food that would help me with certain emotions and moods. And when I broke it down into that specificity, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe, like, how did I figure this out subconsciously all this time? And you love and appreciate yourself for having that strategy. And then I thought to myself, okay, cool. Well, what else can I put in place of these specific items? And then you start to find alternative options, right? So now
Mhm.
there's like exercise, there's more personal development, sometimes just like a cup of tea, right? Have like a cup of tea to soothe myself or something. And then it doesn't become, I need food, I need food. Because if you take away that addiction, you're taking away something that is giving you a benefit. And if you
Mhm.
don't replace it with the exact benefit that you're getting in another form, you'll keep craving it and seeking it out. Yeah. So
Mhm.
first thing, get rid of that judgment.
Yeah, I love that you talk about replacing that judgment with looking at how it's serving you so that you can see it from that kind perspective, see it from a way of not negative, but more this is a need that I have, and I just need to find alternatives, that coping strategies, those resiliency that types of things in order to work through them so that we can't, I think sometimes when there's judgment involved, that's where we avoid, that's where we try and just not address them, and it makes it worse. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because that judgment will block your inner voice and inner vision. Because when you're judging, the only thing that you can think about is I'm bad, I'm wrong, I suck, I'm a failure, all these different components. And that's all that's in your head. But then when you're not judging and you actually see how it serves you, in those moments, you're like, oh, yeah. I have a little bit of anxiety right now. Okay, well, what are alternative options that can help me with the anxiety right now? And then you think of them and you're like, oh, I think I'll do that. I think I'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. So that's part of the reason that we clear the judgment on ourselves too, is this brain noise. When people say like they have a lot of brain noise and their head is really loud, those are all your judgments running like in your subconscious and conscious mind, and they take over your inner voice and vision.
Mm-hmm. So if someone was listening right now and they're like kind of intrigued and wondering, oh, I wonder what this would be like, what's maybe one or two questions that they could start with that they would sit and journal with?
Yeah, so you can basically start when we think about our life, right? And finding our purpose and understanding who we are, you want to ask yourself, like in the challenges that we go through, anything that you go through, a great question is, how does this serve me?
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime you have more negative connotations than positive, basically that's going to create an emotional trigger and an emotional charge, and you're going to feel emotion around it. And you want to keep asking yourself what the benefits are of experiencing this until you have equal negative, positive, equal benefits and drawbacks. You don't ever want to do too many benefits, and I'll explain why in a second, but you just want equal because in equanimity, you'll feel grateful. You'll
Mm-hmm.
feel grateful for the challenge you have, and then you know that it's on the way. It's not going to overcome you anymore. The reason why you don't want to do too many benefits and is that you can actually lean yourself towards pride and infatuation. And a
Mm-hmm.
great example is like, I know if you guys have ever met like a guy or a girl and it's the first time you met them and you think they're the most amazing human on the face of the planet and we get all infatuated with them.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've all had at least one of those. And then you spend like a few hours with them, a few days, a few weeks, you're like this person was a nightmare. I did not see that coming. The reality is that that person displayed both sides to you and from the first second you met them, but you only focused on the positive. So when you focus too much on the positive, you build either pride in yourself or infatuation in someone else, and then it's bound to crash and burn
Hmm.
because we're here to love all parts of ourselves, not just the good, but also the labeled bad, right?
Hmm.
So that's why we want to make sure that we don't have too many benefits on things. And if you do have something that you're all puffed up and proud about, that's why they call it the pride before the fall, is because the universe is set up to naturally bring in people and experiences to humble us and remind us that we are equal with everyone. We're not above, we're not below, we're equal with everyone. And that's actually where we're truly grateful and fulfilled.
Right. And nobody's perfect. So everybody has those good qualities, as well as, I guess I would call them those less desirables, because even though they're not right for you, doesn't mean they're not right for somebody else.
Yeah.
When it comes to your own practice, is this something then that's still ongoing, or do you feel like you get to a place where you've kind of dove into everything and then you're done?
That's a great question. This is not ever going to stop, ever.
Okay.
At first, when I first started, I thought that there would be like an endpoint. And the more that I started to understand human behavior, the more that I got to see that we have misperceptions in fractions of seconds. And then you think about how many years we've been alive and how many fractions of seconds that is. And I just think to myself, there's no way we're going to get through all of this through our whole life. So when people are doing personal development, what I love to remind them to do is focus on what you're having the hardest time with now,
Hmm.
present day, right? And let that also open up like an onion, right? We peel the onion open because you might start with something on the surface and start to work through a challenge. And then all of a sudden you peel away the first layer in present day and you realize this is triggering something from the past. And then we go further in the past and all of a sudden you're pulling out all these little bits and pieces and roots. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't even think that this was one of the biggest events of my life. And I had no idea that it was causing the challenge that I'm having today. Right. So when I say it's going to last forever, it's going to last forever. But the coolest thing about this is that every time you do it, it's like you overcome an insecurity with yourself, a misperception within yourself. And every time you do that, it opens another piece of your unique vision, your life purpose, your authenticity. And you know yourself more to such a degree that, again, you're building that life that's designed around who you authentically are. And part of that, too, it's like there's some selfishness in the statement, but it's also a lot of selflessness in the sense that I've noticed that the more that people work on themselves, the more that they want to provide a service to others, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like,
Yeah.
the more you connect with yourself, the more that you're like, oh, I want to give something to other people and in your inspired form. And it's the
Right.
journey we get to go on for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, because I think that touches on two parts, the fact that people talk about different seasons of our lives. And so as we go through those different seasons, we do change. The person I was 30 years ago is definitely not the person I am today, and probably the person I won't be 30 years from now. I think just the fact that, we do keep growing, we do keep kind of expanding who we are. The other part you talked about as far as wanting to give back, self-care, when I talk about it, it's not about just yourself. It's about working on yourself, taking care of yourself is that gift you give to everybody else, and so this is part of that self-care, your personal development, learning about yourself, growing and expanding, kind of living in alignment with that true self is going to benefit everybody so much more. I love how you tied back into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never met a person quite yet. I still haven't met a person yet that once we start doing this work and helping them overcome these big major stressors that they have, it just opens up, it gets rid of the heaviness and it opens up the opportunity of what do I want to do in life? Like, what impact do I want to make? And they start asking those questions. And it might not have been questions they had before because their brain, again, all that brain noise is just blocking like that part of them that genuinely wants to be of service in an
Mm-hmm.
inspired way. And I really haven't met anyone who doesn't want to be of service yet. Not yet. It's in
Yeah.
everyone.
So even though, like, when you started your journey, obviously, you were diving deeper into things, you were learning a lot more. Even though it's a practice you continue, does it kind of get to almost like, do you have a set routine? Is there, like, certain things that you can do to stay in alignment then once you've kind of dove through a lot of the heavier, deeper stuff?
Yeah, I have a set routine that I also allow flexibility in.
Hmm.
So I know what my priorities are, my purposes. I know what my long-term goals are and my short-term goals. So every day I ensure that I'm investing time to working towards that and investing time in those priorities. And that is where I feel the most fulfilled, including the challenges that I have, right? Because also, I mean, we're all going to have challenges in
Hmm.
life, but if I have challenges that are inspiring to me, it's actually a different type of stress. We call it eustress instead of distress. And
Hmm.
eustress doesn't have that impact on the body where it actually impacts your health and can harm your health. Like distress, we've seen can actually harm your health, but eustress does not. And so that's pretty cool. And when we think about like designing our life around our priorities, it's like, what does that look like to you? And how is that important to you? I do love fitness, but I love educational driven fitness where it's like a mind body connection. So I do have very specific routines in my life where it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is this, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is this, right? And so I make sure to do those things because I know I feel more fulfilled when I'm facing those challenges. And it's cool because it's like, look at what you love to fill your life with already, right? What do you love to fill your day with? What do you already make sure that you want to fit in? And sometimes you're really exhausted, but you're like, but I really want to do this today. And
Right.
pay attention, yeah, to what's already important to you, what you invest the most time in, when you spend the most energy on, what you invest the most money in, right? What you love to fill your space with, that's most inspiring to you. And then plan your life around actually doing more of that. And I love to ask this question. I love business. So you'll also sometimes see me just wake up in the morning and get right on my computer. It doesn't bother me. It
Hmm.
doesn't drain me. I love business. It's part of my purpose, right? I know that's not for everyone, but it is for me. But as well, like if you love like what you do, ask yourself who out there would benefit from what I love. Like what products,
Hmm.
what services can I offer? Because for me, if I can create products and services that allow me to invest every day in stuff I love, like that just makes my life way more inspiring and way more fulfilling.
Right.
And everyone can do that. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think we all can, like I said in the beginning, we make time for the things we really want to do. The other part is, our self-care, our personal development journey that I don't always think gets enough attention that I love to talk about with my guests is gratitude. And I always kind of ask, what would you say are kind of your top 2 to 3 things that you would say you're the most grateful for?
Yeah. Oh my God. I am so grateful for my life. It's hard to narrow it down for 2 to 3 things, but just my day-to-day life, I guess we could count that as
Hmm.
one.
Yeah.
My day-to-day life is definitely something, and being connected to something that feels greater than myself,
Hmm.
something that feels greater than myself, that I get to invest my time and energy is 2 things that I'm really, really, really grateful for. Yeah,
Okay.
really
No,
grateful.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how can people find you, Carly? How can they work with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, definitely my website's the best place, carlypepin.com. You can reach out to me directly. It has all the information and any social media channel your heart desires.
Awesome.
Almost.
Okay. And all those links will be live in the show notes
Yeah.
below. But thank you so much, Carly. I just loved thinking about, living our life from this different purpose, this different perspective. And I think, anyone who's listening to this right now can absolutely walk away with some awesome, actionable ways to start doing that for themselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.